Welcome to the Old Man's Corner. Grab a cup of coffee and come on in. Today I want to share with you some of the places we used to hang out as a kid. There are a lot of places we went to where we went to places like there was a cafe called Joanne's there on Main Street. We'd meet there a lot of the times. They had fairly good food. Some of the times my older sisters worked there, and they had booths that you could sit in, and they had the jukebox on the wall editions where you could put your money in and choose your songs from a thing on the wall, and then the jukebox would play it. So often we'd go there and sit for an hour or two at a time, drinking pop, eating some foods, French fries, hamburgers, things like that. We got to socialize some there. That was more of an open place. It wasn't just like all our neighborhood kids and things like that. It was all the teenagers from around town kind of one time or another would pop in there and spend some time. So then it was an interesting place, and it was one of the first places I worked. I worked as a dishwasher back there for a while, make a little money. Another place that we used to go to, which wasn't as popular but was known, it was called the Ranch Lunch, and it was a nickname, Scrounge Lounge. The food was kind of greasy, and the people that ran the place weren't, I don't know, all that clean, I guess, and it was just a little tiny shack that was on the north end of town. But that was one of the places where it was very compact in there. There was only like two booths in there. And what we would do often as teenagers especially, which we shouldn't have done this type of stuff, but you know how teenagers are. We'd go across the street to where the swimming pool was, and it had a phone over there. So we'd dial into the ranch lunch and order, like 5 or 6 hamburgers and drinks and all that stuff, and say, well, we're going to come pick them up. But then we would just wait and wait and wait, and we knew they closed around 10 o'clock at night. So at about, I don't know, 9:30, 9:45, we all piled in over there and, like order drinks. And we'd figure out that if we'd ordered that stuff, they didn't know who ordered it. So if we went over there at that time and it was closing times and they wanted to get out of there, they'd just give us the stuff because nobody came and picked it up. So we got the stuff for free, in essence, which that worked a few times, but then after that, I think they got used to that type of stuff. But I guess they were good enough people, because I'm sure they realized that that's what we were doing. And we went to other places with A&W Root Beer down there. A lot of my friends worked down at A&W Root Beer off and on, because they could get big old gallon jugs of root beer. And what we'd do is we'd go down there and they'd be working, and like when they were about to get off, we'd go down there and pick them up, and they'd always get like a gallon jug or 2 gallon jugs of root beer. And we could either take them home or we'd go out underneath the South Bridge down there. They had one little picnic table down there, and we'd go down there and we sat and talk and drink root beer. Also, it was at the base of the Highland Cemetery, so we would go up there sometimes and do our little scare thing. We'd go up there and try to scare each other in the cemetery, and it was a winding road all the way up there, and then a winding road all the way back down, and then you had to cross underneath these trestles to go up and down. But we had some times up there, and so there was some scary times that kind of woke us all up. But sometimes we did that, and plus, since it was kind of out of town, uh, the police didn't show up there because we had, several people. Most of the time, we also got in trouble because there was a lot of us boys, and there was like one or two girls that was with us that ran around with us. So, and they were usually they were dating somebody that was within the group. So, there was another place there that called the Western. It was the place where, as you drug down Main Street, it was your south end turnaround point. You drive in there and drive around it, come back out onto Main Street and head back down the other way when you were dragging Main. So we did use that a lot. And they had some pretty good food too. You could drive in there and order up some French fries and stuff like that. This was one places where I was riding with my friend Dwayne, and he'd worked on his car all day, and he'd put these spacers in the springs so that jack up the back of the car a little bit, make it look a little hotter, because he was trying to soup everything up. And we were coming down through there, and we turned off through there and was driving through the parking lot, and he tapped the back of a vehicle in front of him. And when he did, the rear end of the car rose up, and all his spacers popped out, so the car went bam back down to the ground. And when it did that, it messed up the steering and stuff, so we couldn't move the car, couldn't drive the car off. We had to push the car off to the side until we figured out what was wrong with it. And the cops came down there and all that stuff. So those were some interesting times as well. We also had the Burger Station. The Burger Station was a little place over on 7th Street. They made the best hamburgers. Yeah, they were hamburgers with green onions, fried green onions and stuff. This was a popular place for all of us teenagers, but it was a popular place for town. Well, my mom, she loved those hamburgers, so every time she got paid, she'd usually send us little ones up there to get some hamburgers and fries and a Coke and bring them back. But when we were on our own, sometimes we'd just go up and get a hamburger and a Coke. And we'd sit out on their steps. It was just a little bitty place. And sit out there and eat it and drink and talk a little bit. And as far as I know, it's still there. It's not under the same management, but it's still there. It was well known for around that area. And in early years, there was the White Lily Cafe, and it was just a little hole in the wall cafe that was there on, I think, about 10th or 11th Street, across from the old library. And the aroma from it, floated all over downtown. And they were said to make some great hamburgers there as well. We had several eating places there that were popular. And then, of course, when Pizza Hut came in, it became very popular. We'd go down there and eat sometimes. There was another pizza place. I can't remember the name of it. It wasn't Pizza Hut associated, but it was there on 9th Street. And we could go in there, and they had a jukebox, and it was pretty nice set up in there, a large room. Occasionally we'd go in there, a bunch of us, and order pizza and sit there and listen to music. A lot of the time I listened to Tommy James and the Shondells was some of my favorites to listen to, and the Moody Blues, and that was the music that was of the time that we'd go and listen to. And we'd order these pizzas, and sometimes we'd have to order 2 different pizzas. Jesse, he was with us. Jesse, he liked the hot peppers, the ground up hot peppers, and he would sprinkle all that all over those things. I could take just one of those little tiny hot peppers out of it and put it on my mouth. It would just burn forever. But he sprinkled it all over it, so obviously he got that pizza to himself, because I couldn't take it, that's for sure. But those are some of the places that we used to go that were pretty popular at the time. We also, at times, just go out of town to different places. Sometimes we'd go over to Ark City to some of the places over there. Didn't do a whole lot over there because we didn't have the gas all the time to go driving all the way over there just to get something to eat. If we was going over there, we planned on going for some reason, like Arkalala festivities or something like that. And, so we had a lot of fun doing that stuff. And of course, the College Hills groceries, we went up there often when I was younger too. There were a lot of places to eat and places to hang out and go. Some of the other places I don't talk about though are just places we used to go and meet and that were interesting around town. Across from the high school, the old high school, and it sounds kind of funny, but right next to the funeral home that was there, they had a sunken garden that had a little waterfall with the well. The water fell in the well, and it was sunken down in there and surrounded by vines and stuff like that. And you could walk down in there, and it was very pretty, very peaceful. But we'd go down there sometimes and just sit and talk and enjoy and think about old times. And but with the funeral home being next door, we often wondered, we'd talk about spooky things, that type of thing too. We utilized our cemeteries quite a bit. We'd go up to Highland Cemetery because it was way up on the hill, and especially during October and the Halloween type months, and we'd go up there and we try to scare each other and do things like that. And I remember one time Donnie and I went up there and he had this car that he bought, and it was a pretty nice little car. We all went up there, and it was a BMW, I think it's what it was a Studebaker, and we were up there, and him and Dwayne jumped out of the car and took off running and left us sitting in the car. And it was dark out there, and they come running up, screaming and hollering. And Donnie jumped on the front of the car to slide across. And he ripped off the thing on the front of the car, the emblem, and cut his leg a little bit. So the rest of us ran there. Yeah, that's what you get for trying to scare us, for one thing. So, but we had good times. We did things. We had to make up our own entertainment there, and if we didn't do that type of stuff, a bunch of us would usually get together and go fishing, or go down to the riverbank. I know we got a whole bunch of fishing. A lot of them went swimming, some went fishing, some of them just went back in the woods and did the thing. So there are a lot of interesting places and interesting things to do. Of course, the high school always had events going on. We'd go over and get involved in some of those events, watching. None of us were very athletic type people, so we just went over and kind of watched and enjoyed that. So there was those type of things, and I'm just wandering back in my mind over these things and some of the good times we had. Going out to the lake, especially, a lot of times, especially when they had what they called the senior keg party. The seniors would have a keg party out there at the end of graduation, and seniors and juniors were mostly the ones that went out there. Occasionally, some of the sophomores and freshmen would make it out there. They weren't too thrilled about that, but we'd show up out there anyways. But there'd be some parties out there, and then we had different places over on the rivers and stuff where we'd go over and party and talk and build fires, and we spent a lot of time down at the Tunnel Mill Dam. When summer would come on, our summer break from school, I think most of us kind of lived down there. We'd just go home long enough to check in, say hello once in a while, and pick up something to eat, change clothes or something like that. And we did a lot of living down there, and that was kind of fun. It was getting out and about. And then we had the old bicycle trails on the back side of the dike, which we'd take our bikes and ride down on there and all around. And I don't know how many bikes got run coming off the top of them trails and smacking trees or running off into the creek. But it was it was a very active place, very interesting, and I don't know. I think sometimes again, I think I wonder how we survived our our youth because we were very very active people. Well, if you have stories of how you grew up, where you grew up, and some of your favorite places and the places you grew up, uh, let us know. Tell us the story, or tell us what it was, and, or where it was, and how things happened, uh, why you went there, that type of things. If you want to share those things, share them down in the comments, or just you know, you're always welcome to make a video and put it up there. You can share some things with me, and people will read them down in the comments. But I appreciate you, you know, viewing my videos, and I appreciate you listening to my rambles at times. I, I don't do any of this stuff scripted. I just whatever's coming in my head. This is what I want to talk about, and I thought that's what I tell you about. But I'd love to hear some things from you. Uh, it's always interesting to hear people's different views on life and how they grew up. So I love y'all, and if you get a chance, give me a comment, and share this, and let other people know that I love them, and I'll talk to you later then.